Today we'll be getting into the top 5 underrated Jets going into 2022. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be talking about my 5 most underrated Jets going into the season. Before we get started today, I just wanted to mention you can follow on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. New episodes come out every single Monday. You can call in, leave me your questions, and I'll answer them on the show. And then, of course, bonus content on the Patreon. You got Exit 16 West. New episodes come out every Thursday of that show. This week's guest is Jake Asman, if you're interested in subscribing. And you get player breakdowns on Friday and more to come there. Okay, so going into this list, this is my list. Just, you could have yours. I want to hear yours, actually. Drop your 5 most underrated Jets in the comments below. And I'm kind of all over the place on the offensive side, on the defensive side. Some of these guys are, very well-known players. And I think basically my overall way that I came about this list was the overall consensus from Jets fans and just my opinion if they are properly rated or not. And pretty much everyone on this list is underrated in my eyes. I think, they're good in a way. And some people, you'd be like, how does this person make the list? But when I explain, hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. So let's get this thing started. A former fan favorite turned into a whipping boy. And I don't quite understand why. John FranklinMyers. So he ended the season with 6 sacks, 53 pressures, 9 hits, and 38 hurries. Now, most people were saying that John FranklinMyers went full Muhammad Wilkerson after getting paid. That's not exactly true. It's not, and sure, some of his more productive games in the year came before the contract, for instance, the Tennessee game, but there were some other games later in the year. For example, the Houston game, one of his better games. Against Miami was one of his better games. But he ended up finishing 19th in the league for all edge rushers in terms of pressures, which is important. Obviously, getting after the quarterback is important. You want to see those convert to sacks, but I think most people are aware that sacks aren't always the best way to look at a pass rusher. It doesn't tell the whole story. It's important, but it doesn't tell the entire story. I'm not like completely anti-sack that it doesn't mean anything. Of course it does, but I think there's more to it here. And if you keep in mind, there's 32 teams. And every team has 2 starting edge rushers. 19th is pretty high, and especially when you consider that he's the 23rd highest paid edge by AAV, you're getting more bang for your buck. And he finished with more pressures than guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Brian Burns, Cam Jordan, Josh Allen, Chandler Jones, Robert Quinn, Hassan Reddick. And sure, yes, the sacks didn't necessarily convert, but nobody's sacks were converting. So I don't know why you're singling out John FranklinMyers. He's underrated by Jets fans, I think, at this point. And he was on my underrated list last year. He's a very solid piece. I'm glad that he signed, and he's going to be moving back inside more this year, which is where I think he's really going to thrive. So I'm excited to see him in 2022. I think he's going to be a damn good player. The next guy on my list is Corey Davis. Yes, I think Jet fans are underrating Corey Davis. Last year, 492 yards and 4 touchdowns in just 9 games. 54.7 yards per game, paced out over a 17-game season, 929-yard pace. I don't think he was that good last year, but still on a 900-yard pace is solid, especially when you consider what the Jets normally get at that position. Obviously, he needs to cut down on the drops. Drops were a significant issue, but so many Jet fans that I see are all the way out on him. And they're like, I'm not even saying that he's necessarily going to have more receiving yards than Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson. I don't think that's going to be the case. I would probably put him 3rd in receiving yards on this team, but I think people are sleeping on his skill set a little bit. I still expect him to be very much so involved in the offense. Early on in the year, he was Zach Wilson's safety blanket, and there were some pretty good games, man. Against Carolina, he was really good. Against his former team in Tennessee, he was really good. I'm not out on Corey Davis. I still think he has a role on this team, and I think he should stay. So I'm again, this is someone who I think will be a bounce back candidate this year, and I think because of that, like so many fans are all the way out on him, I think he's actually underrated. Next up, we have DJ Reed. Yes, Sauce Gardner is stealing the headlines, and rightfully so. He's a 4th overall pick and tremendous. But I think people are forgetting just how damn good DJ Reed was the last couple of years in Seattle. This is an elite level run defender for a corner. Yes, he's on the smaller size, but he doesn't play like he's that size. He plays a lot bigger than he actually is. He had the 6th best reception percentage for all qualified corners at 51.5%. He only allowed 383 yards, only allowed 2 touchdowns against, and he had 2 interceptions on the year. Once again, Sauce Gardner, for obvious reasons, is going to steal the headlines, but because of that, I think fans are really sleeping on DJ Reed. He might go down as the Jets' best signing, and that includes bringing in both tight ends. We're going to talk more about the tight ends in a second here. That includes bringing in Laken Tomlinson. DJ Reed is going to be very, very good for this team and a much needed improvement in the run game. Fans are sleeping on him, and this is someone that you should have circled as someone to keep an eye on this year. Number 4 on my list, Tyler Conklin. Yes, CJ Uzomah is the bigger name of the two. He was on the team that just won the AFC. They played in the Super Bowl, and like he's gonna be a leader. He was the first one that was signed, but I think we're sleeping on Conklin's production, man. 593 yards and 3 touchdowns is nothing to bat an eye at. For qualifying tight ends, he was 17th in receiving yards, 16th in yards per reception, 9th in reception percentage. This is someone who you can make a case is at least middle of the pack in terms of tight ends, and he's probably tight end 2 on this team, but don't sleep on his usage. The Jets are going to use 2 tight ends. Jeremy Ruckert probably isn't going to get a ton of repetitions in year 1. I think he gets worked in more in year 2 and year 3, but Tyler Conklin is younger than CJ Uzomah. So like, don't be surprised if at the end of the year, Conklin's the one who ends up with more receiving yards. It might be close. And like, obviously I think they're going to utilize both, but I feel like there's a section of Jet fans who are like, yeah, Uzomah's going to be the guy. And then after that, it's Conklin. Yeah, okay, he was pretty good in Minnesota, right? I mean, he put up almost 600 receiving yards at the tight end position. That is, for what the Jets have gotten in years gone by, that is huge. That is really big, and this guy's just entering his prime now. Last year was his age 26 season. I think he's going to be a very useful piece, and both of these guys can block, but Tyler Conklin is someone that I think fans are sleeping on. Stop sleeping on Tyler Conklin. He's going to be good. And the last guy, this is the one I think most people are going to say, how the hell is he on this list? But when you look at what his actual production was the last time we saw him versus what the expectation for him is, I think that makes him underrated, and that's Karl Lawson. The last time we saw him in 2020, obviously didn't play at all in 2021, but looked really good in training camp and in the preseason before getting hurt. This is how he ranked amongst edge defenders. He was 3rd in win rate for, obviously, in pass rush win rate. He was 8th in pressure percentage and 6th in total pressures. This is someone who was a top 10 edge player the last time we saw him, and he's like an afterthought on this team going into 2022. I feel like it's like, oh, cool, we're getting Karl Lawson back. We'll see what we get out of him. No, this guy is a legitimate impact guy. He's going to be a drastic improvement for this defense. Think about what that's going to do for Quinnen Williams, for John FranklinMyers, for Jermaine Johnson, the rookie on the other side of the ball. It's totally going to be a major impact. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, what's his health after coming back from the Achilles? I am confident that Karl Lawson is going to come back and be a really, really good football player for this team. I think we forget just how good he was in 2020 and then just how good he was in training camp of 2021. So those are my top 5 underrated Jets going into the season. You guys let me know down in the comments below who makes your list. Was my list right? Is it wrong? Everything, get after me in the comments. Please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you're new and not subscribed. You should be subscribed so you get the notifications, all that fun stuff when videos come out. Appreciate all the love and support. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I will talk to you next time.